Hello, everybody. So I downloaded the maps tonight, and I noticed that there's a slight problem that we have. So I'm going to start with the zip file. We'll go with the extraction from there, and then we can talk about how to fix the fact that the hillshade map and the image map are not working for this. This is actually a pretty decent lesson on how to download some maps. So it'll be helpful. So, all right. So for starters, we're going to go up here. We're going to go to our zip file that remember we clicked on it inside Laker Lake to download it. So we're going to go click zip file. We're going to double click this. We're going to say extract all, and we're going to go to browse, and we want to go to our documents folder or wherever you have your map saved. And then I already created this lab 3 folder, so we'll select that. It says it's extracting into lab 3, and we say OK. All right, so now we want to go in and we want to open up that folder. So let's go to our documents folder over here. We can go wherever you extracted this to again. Mine is this. You get this folder here from being extracted. And we'll go ahead and we'll open up the map as is, and I'll show you what the problem is. So you'll notice here that we have some of our map is drawn, but you'll see over here on the side, there's this little red exclamation point next to Hillshade and next to the OSIP 2018 file. So that means that the information that this is looking for is not where it's supposed to be, or there's a problem with how it was supposed to open. And you can see here, say if I want to go back in here, let's remove Hillshade for right now. I'll click remove. I'll go in and I'll add data. And we want to go to back to that folder that we were just in. And I'll click on Hillshade and I'll say add. And we get this error message, this invalid raster data set, failed to create a raster layer. So that's what that little red exclamation point is going to tell us. It will tell us the same thing when we try to open up this OSIP 2018 file. So there's a few things that are causing this. It turns out that the newer version of ARC has got a problem with not only file name length, but also some spaces in file names and a few other things. So let's close out of this program for right now. And we'll go into our File Explorer and we'll see if we can't fix some of the problems here. So we'll just say no, we don't want to save this changes. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go here, and you want to right click down here on this folder and go to File Explorer. Once you do that, click on this PC and go to your C drive. In your C drive, I've already done this, but you want to right click, go to new folder, and then name it temp. And you just create this temp folder here. And we can open that up. And then we want to go up here where we have our extracted lab 3 data, and it says Hillshade here. It's just a folder. Take that folder, drag it over into the temp file. Now, that shortens up the naming for this Hillshade and gets rid of any spaces that might be in the name, and any other problems that that this might have, and it just puts it over here. So we've got this right now. It's in just C temp Hillshade. It will now open up when we go to add that layer in. So if we go back over here and we open up the Lab 3 base map again, we remove this version of Hillshade because that's the one that didn't work, and we go to add, and then we go over here, and you might have to add in a folder. You might have to say plus and add in this PC and add in your C drive. I didn't have to do that because it was already there, but we'll go through it like I did. So then you click over here, and we have the C drive here. We can click on that, and then we can go to our temp file we just made, and we can add in Hillshades. It's going to ask us if you want to build pyramids to make it load faster. You can say yes. It's going to take a little bit of time. It's down here. You can see that it's doing some work. All right. and then it's going to load in this raster file for us. So this works. Now the next step to do this is a little bit more complicated. So let me go through that next. So what we want to do is we want to go down and we want to open up whatever your web browser is. I use Chrome. It works for me. And if you're running into problems with this stuff not opening, perhaps try using Chrome or Mozilla or one of the ones other than Windows Explorer. Sometimes Windows Explorer doesn't play well. And then we want to go to Organ. And you can see that I've been loading this a lot. But if you go to Organ Spatial Data Library, click on that. It will open up this page here. Now this is the collection of a whole bunch of spatial data for Organ. So what we want to do is we want to click on imagery, because that's what we're going for, satellite imagery. And then I know it's on page 3, so we're just going to skip ahead to page 3. All right, and what we're going for is this OSIP 2018 WMS file. So click on that. And then it's going to bring us into this page, and it's going to say our imagery file down here for the service URL. Click on that, and then click Open in ArcMap. And it's going to bring us, you can see it's downloading a layer down here. And basically, it's not pulling in all of that information. What it's doing is it's pulling in a layer that then goes and looks at their server. So for this layer to work on ArcMap, you need to be connected to the internet. So if we double click on this, it's opening. And since we already had this map open when we told it to open an ArcMap, it opened it into ArcMap in the view extent that we were already in. You can see that we still have this one down here that's broken. So we can right click on that, and we can click remove. And now we have our Hillshade file, and we have our map file. Now one of the things, the reason why I brought in the Hillshade file is it helps you to see some of the things as far as the shading in the valleys and things like that. It gives a little bit more of a 3D dimension to your photo. So if we zoom in here a little bit, you can see this looks pretty flat. You do have some shadow to it, but not much. So what we can do is we can go up here and we can go down to Properties, and we can go to the Display tab, and in the Display tab, let's give this a little bit of transparency. Let's say maybe 15% transparency and see how that looks. So we click on that, and now you can see that it added in a little bit more shadow to the image file. And you can see kind of along the edges here where you get outside of where we have that underlying raster, you can see you lose a little bit of the depth to what your imagery looks like. You gain a little bit from this, not always, but it does tend to make your pictures look a little bit nicer. And you can mess around with that transparency until you like what you're getting. You might want to go up to maybe a 25%, see how that looks. If you do too much, it will wash out too much of your color, and it won't look right. But 25% doesn't look too bad. You can see where your draws are at, but it does give you a little bit of gray into your tree color. So I think we'll go back to maybe 20% and call that good. So with those two steps done, you can then continue on with the rest of the lab. All right, so we've opened up the map here. I know in the directions it says that I have created a locator map for this, but we don't have that in the layout view, so don't worry about that step. All that would be is if you clicked on layout view, you would have your main map here and then a small locator map in the corner. We're just going to not have the locator map for this one right now. So if we go back to our data view, we can go up here, and what we want to do is we want to open up our catalog. So our catalog is right up here. You can see it. It's this little icon with the file cabinet in it. If you click on that, it'll open up our catalog. And then what we want to do is we want to go into our file window over here, and we want to figure out where our folder all of this is located in. So all of our files are located in. Don't worry about the fact that the Hillshade is in a separate one now. Just go to your main folder where your streams and roads are located. And you can go up here, So that for me is my lab 3 / lab 3 creating a base map. And you can right click on that. You go down to new, and we're going to add a shape file. All right, and we get this dialog box here. Now, our new shapefile is going to be a polygon shapefile, and we're going to name it Clear Cuts. So up here in the name, we want to call it Clear Cuts. All right, and then we want to go down into the drop down, and we want to change that drop down to a polygon. So let's capitalize that. See, Clear Cuts. And we don't want it to be a point file. We want it to be a polygon file. So we say polygon. There's polyline and there's polygon. Make sure it's polygon. And then we need to go in here. We need to tell it what its coordinate system is. So remember, we talked about UTMs for this. So we want to go in here and we're not going to choose UTMs this time. We're going to go and we're going to actually edit, and we're going to import a coordinate system. So we're going to use one of the existing coordinate systems from over here. So we can go to edit, and then we go over to this add a coordinate system, and we want to click import. Now we created this temporary folder for our hillshade. We want to back out of this, so we'll go back up to our documents folder, or wherever you have all of your stuff saved. And you go into that lab 3 file that you unzipped and pick roads. We'll say OK for roads. And you see that this brings in this statewide Lambert feet international coordinate system, which is fine. This is what we're going to use. If we use an existing coordinate system that we're already drawing with, this makes sure that everything's going to line up nicely. All right. And then we say OK. And then we say OK again. All right. So what that did is, you can see over here, it created a shapefile in here that's called Clear Cuts. All right, so our next step here is we want to edit that Clear Cuts file. So this is a polygon file, and what we're going to do is we're going to draw in some of these clear cuts. So to do that, we need to go up here, and you might have turned this on already. If you haven't yet, you want to right click over here in one of the blank spots and make sure your editor toolbar is selected and turned on. That will open up this toolbar right here. All right, then we want to go to editor, click on that, click start editing, select Clear Cuts, say OK. You get this message here. We can just say continue. All right, now this is what my window looks like. You might have already had this step open up, but if you don't have another window here, go up here to where this little tablet with the pencil looking thing is on it. It says create features, and click on that. And that's going to open up this pane right here. And then we'll click on Clear Cuts again. And we want to go down here and we want to click polygon. All right. So what that did is that gave us a drawing tool essentially. From this point on, when you start clicking, it's going to start drawing some of your tools. So there are some standard sketch tools. You can see them up here. You just have a point-to-point straight. You can do arcs. You can trace lines around things. But we're just gonna, since we're not tracing anything, we're just going to do the point-to-point. So we're going to edit in this clear cut right here for starters. So let's zoom in. Let it reload. All right, so we can see this clear cut rather clearly here. And then what you want to do is you'll notice that this tool will snap to lines a little bit. So since there's a road here, it's going to snap to that road. Sometimes that's handy, sometimes it's not. So let's go up here and let's just turn roads off. All right. We still have the editor toolbar, but now it's not snapping to anything. Okay. And then we can go here and we just start drawing. And this is one of those things where the more points you make, the higher detail your drawing is going to be. And you just start making points as you go around. So you'll notice every time I click the mouse, it creates a new vertices. So that's a new point along this line. And if you want to smooth it out around corners, you can make more points. But if you have big, long straightaways, like right here, you can bump all the way down to there, single point, right? Now, it does get a little annoying in that we left this as a pink polygon. We could have made it hollow, which would have made this a little bit easier to draw, because now we can't see where that polygon was going. And see, we made a mistake there. But we can go back and we can actually move these vertices once we're done drawing. So let's continue on with this. We have a few trees over here on this side of this road. We'll zoom back in and out to shift things around. And we can continue on with our clear cut. So it looks like I got off of our clear cut a little bit here. Looks like I followed this road a little too far. So let's go over here and we'll just finish this one up. And remember, you can use... Now see, do you remember how I said that when you move things, stuff redraws and it's a little annoying? This is one of those cases where that's the case. I'm using my arrow keys now to move the map. Because you can't grab it with the little hand icon during this stage. All right. So then when we get back to where we started, we can just double click, and that finalizes this drawing. So let's go up here and let's change this out of this pink color. We'll make it hollow, and let's give ourselves, say, a red outline, just so we can see it for right now. All right, it's currently selected. So what we can do now is we can actually go in and we can edit our vertices in this. So what we do is we want to click this little arrow here, this editing tool. You click on that, and then you go down here and you can double click on your line. And that will open up your line with the vertices in it. So you have these dots that you put your vertices in. You can take those and let's take them and drag them to where we feel like our clear cut actually went, right? So like I said, moving around when you're doing this is a little bit of a pain. We can turn off a few things that will make it load a little quicker. Like I could turn off the hill shade since we don't currently need that in there. And a few things like that. We obviously still need the image, which you know, that makes this part a little bit harder to do. All right, so we're going to adjust some of our points here. And you can see the blue line is where we had it before, right? So it looks like we might need to add in a point or two here for some final adjustments. So we've got this point here. We can drag it down. That looks about right, but we might need to add in a point here, or we could drag this one over to here. But let's add in a vertices point. We can right click on it and we can say insert vertex. See, and that gives us another point there. And we can take that and we can drag it, and we can drag our points. All right, so there we go. When we're done doing our editing, you click off of your line, and then your line is finished drawing. So let's zoom out here a little bit and see what we think. Looks like we encompass most of this clear cut. There's a little vagueness here where we go into a secondary clear cut, but it looks like we got most of the new clear cut here. All right. So, and what I just did there was move my selection. Let's go back. All right, so there we go. This is a finished drawn in clear cut for this line. Now we're going to do multiple polygons for this, but so we don't lose this one right now, let's go to editor and stop editing. And we say yes, we want to save our edits. Okay, so now that clear cut is drawn in there, and you'll notice over here this is clear cuts, and if we were to turn off this layer, that drawing disappears. So if we zoom back out, we can zoom in over here to this clear cut. Let's grab the hand. We'll get this nice and centered. And we'll zoom in on it. All right. So now with this, we can just start redrawing this clear cut. So we stopped editing, right? So we want to go to editor. We're going to say start editing. We want to choose clear cuts again. Say OK. Say continue. We've got clear cuts over here. If we click on that, we're going to draw another polygon. So we click on the polygon. And then over here, we're started. So we can start drawing this in. Now you'll see, since we had changed that to hollow, this becomes a lot easier to draw. Now, we do have a little bit of guesswork here along the edges, because obviously it looks like we've got some pretty tall trees that this cut up next to, and some shadows that we're dealing with when we're trying to draw around these trees. One method to work with this perhaps would be to get a LiDAR of canopy, and you'd be able to see your canopy hits for these trees. The problem with doing that is you might not, you get satellite imagery a lot more often than you get LiDAR imagery. LiDAR is a bit more expensive to do than satellite imagery, so it's more likely that you'll have up-to-date satellite imagery when you're trying to do something like this than you will that you'll have up-to-date LiDAR imagery. Unless you work for a company that, for example, flies LiDAR. And in that case, you might. All right, so there we go. That was a quick drawing around that clear cut. Now we can go up here and we can go editor and say stop editing. We say save. There we go. So now we have two distinct polygons. All right, so this next step that we want to do is we want to go in and we want to edit an existing layer. So we're going to edit the roads layer to more closely match what the satellite imagery is showing. Some of this is because these are older roads, probably digitized on from other maps that weren't as accurate. And right now we have a pretty accurate satellite imagery, so we can come in here and we can actually fix some of these things. So what we want to do is we want to go up to editor. We want to click start editing. We want to click roads, say OK. I'm going to click continue. Now over here in your features, we have our 3 that we've already made. We want to click on roads. All right, so that's going to make sure that we're in here. Currently what we're doing is we have a draw tool open, so we want to go back up. Remember, you want to click this edit tool, the select edit tool, and then you can come down here and we can double click on that road, right? So let's zoom in on this road a little bit, because it's got quite a few vertices, and we can take these vertices and we can add some if we need to, but we can also just drag them around, right? And we can fix this road a little bit. Now in some cases you're probably going to have to add some more, just because there might not be enough to fit what the road is actually doing, depending on how simplified the drawing you're dealing with is. But in this case, we might actually have enough. And so all you do is you just work your way around and you move your points to where you want them to be. And you can see where the blue line is. And what I just did there is, instead of using the arrow buttons to pan around, I pushed in my wheel mouse and was able to pan that way. So by pushing in the wheel mouse, you can actually get the hand and pan. We're going to have to slide some of these points down a little ways. You could also click on them and delete them, but we're going to end up using most of them anyway. So let's just scrunch them down here a little bit. And like I said, extra points really isn't a problem. Extra points is just going to make your drawing a little bit more accurate, a little smoother. So now I want you to go through, and you will do this to a few of the roads. Look at the places where the drawing's really egregious, where it really doesn't match up with what we're seeing, and go through and fix it. When you feel like you're done with that, you can go up here and you can say editor, and you say stop editing. It'll ask you if you want to save the edits. You say yes, and there we go. See, now we redrew that line so it more closely matches that road. You can see over here in a few places there's some other parts of the road that don't line up quite right. Now you don't want to go too crazy. This is a relatively short lab, but just go through and fix a few things. All right. And say if you're looking at it and you can't really tell where the road is, you can go in and you can actually turn off this satellite imagery, and you get this imagery, which is your LiDAR imagery, and that might make the roads a little bit more apparent. So if we zoom in here, you can actually see the cut of the roadbed. So you can go back and forth. If you're in a forested area, sometimes switching over to the LiDAR is a little bit easier than leaving it on the satellite imagery, because you won't have trees covering things up. It also looks like we might have an old road in here that either doesn't exist or never did exist. And with that, we could go in and we could go to editor. We can start editing. We can go to our roads, say okay, say continue. Click on roads here. Make sure you go back to your editor tool. Right? And it looks like we have these two little spur roads here that don't actually exist anymore, if they ever did. LiDAR doesn't necessarily suggest that they did either. So it's possible that this is just a mistake in here for these roads. So we can double click on this road and we can get our points here. And we can just start deleting the points as we go back. So if you right click on the vertices, you can right click and you can click delete vertices, and you just move your way back. Some of this is a little tedious, and I won't deny that. Digitizing can be a little bit more tedious than you would like. However, given the way it used to work, this is very quick. So, and I'm sure as things progress in the technology, all of this will become quicker and a little bit more automated. Some of it's already a little more automated. You can see there, that first one, I missed my vertices, and it tried to ask me if I wanted to insert one instead of deleting one. So if you do that, just click off of it and click back onto something different. All right, now we can see that this road, if we want, we can move these vertices here, and we'll just move them out to this landing where this road stops. All right, and we can click over here onto this road, and you see it redrew that one. We can click over here onto this one, and this road, this whole road doesn't exist. So this one we actually can just click delete, and that deletes that whole road segment. You could do some of the same things with you maybe redraw this and delete this little arm here. Things like that. So I just want you to go through, clean up the map, make it look a little closer to what's actually there. And then when you get done and you feel comfortable with where you're at, you don't have to do everything. Like I said, there's some roads in here that don't have any lines on them. You don't need to do that. Just clean some stuff up a little bit. We can look at digitizing, adding in roads and things like that in a later time. If you're going to add in a road, just like we did with the clear cuts, you just come down here and you click line, and then that would bring in your drawing tool, and you could just come in here and you could start at this point. So let's do this one right here. You come in here, we can start here, and this will just be a whole new feature. So if you were to open up the attributes table, and when you're done, you just double click. That finished that line. So this becomes a whole new line here. And that's how easy it is to add a road to there. And because we clicked off of here, it puts vertices onto this other existing road so that you know those two roads are connected. So, like I said, we can just go through, clean up a little bit. And then when you're done, we'll go back to our layout view. Remember, layout view is down here. You can click on it there. And then I want you to go up here. And what I did is I created this bookmark earlier on. And you can create bookmarks in here based on how far you're zoomed in or zoomed out. And what I did is I created a bookmark that I called the mapping area. And you can click on that. And that's going to zoom you out to the extent of the map that I want it to show. So we have these two clear cuts digitized in. We fixed a few roads. I realize there's some more clear cuts in here. If you want to practice, you can digitize some more clear cuts in, but you don't have to. Just do these two. Fix some of the roads. Maybe try digitizing in a road that wasn't there before. And then I want you to go through and I want you to add in a title, a north arrow. You can add in a legend showing, and what I want for the legend is just clear cuts. Whatever your symbol you decide to use for clear cuts. I'm fine with a hollow box, a hollow symbol with a red outline, or whatever you decide you like. Keep the roads black and keep the streams this blue color. So put a legend in here where you feel like a legend should fit. I want a title and your source and your name. Your source for this is going to be the Oregon Spatial Database. So you can put that down here at the bottom. And yeah, and a scale bar. Basically, you're just building a map. For the steps on how to do all of that, you can look back at the previous labs. And if you have any questions, just send me an email.